not a whole lot now in the way of announcements for your bulletin. A couple of things to point out to you would be the mission trips that are taking place in August. If you are interested and able to, congregation every Tuesday and Thursday for exercise. So we thought it would be an opportunity to have top shop early for them also. But please keep that in prayer. We're well on schedule to open up or to finish. We'll open up and finish by the end of August, and then we'll be meeting with Jared. We'll be meeting again this week with some other people to logistics as to how it's going to work, how we're going to put it together. If you're interested in helping out the golf shop, then come along. We certainly want all the help we can, and I'll tell you how you can help too. Is you can help by giving. That's what pastors are supposed to do. So we have in your bulletin, there's 2 bank accounts. The one from Sunny Bank is a building fund, which those things go right towards this golf shop. And the purpose of the golf shop is this. We want to use that and to do business. Our purpose, our mission is to do business like Jesus would do business. We have farmers, coffee farmers that we want to support, from the bean to the cup. And one's in Vietnam province, and we can get other prospects. So it's going to be something that we want to be not just fair trade, but Christ-like trade. Jesus would do business. So if you're here today and you would like to participate, the best way to do this is to make it possible for those accounts there. Again, I want to welcome you to Grace Church, the body of Christ, an English-speaking community in Taipei, with God's message of grace. That's why we're called Grace Church. So I certainly appreciate your being here today. We are in a series of sermons in the book of Luke. So as we get into that, I want us to imagine what it was like to be disciples that are with Jesus. Luke says that he's writing this book that you may be convinced of the truth and that you would know what is true. So he's done the research on this guy named Jesus. He didn't actually meet Jesus, but he's been doing the research on all the stories that he's heard. Last week we read about how the disciples were in this boat and long into the night. They were huddled together, frightened in this tiny little boat as the wind and the rain and the storm just beat down on them, threatening to destroy them and to end their lives. They were convinced they were going to drown. You know how it is when you're in a typhoon or in a big storm. There's the howl of the wind and all the noises of things being knocked around. And here they are above the howl of the wind. They're trying to decide how they're going to approach their master, Jesus. You don't just casually go and talk to the master. This is an Oriental society, and in this society, the master has a position, and there's an honor to him. You don't just wake him up out of his sleep because you think you're coming. But finally, overwhelmed by desperation, overwhelmed by exhaustion and fear, they wake Jesus up and tell him, "Hey, Master, we are drowning here." Then Jesus, he gets up from his sleep and he commands the wind. He says, "Hush!" And the wind stopped. He tells the waves to be still, and they stop. These are words that we use to talk to fussy babies. Hush! Be still. I was on the airplane going to Okinawa to visit my grandson. He's the closest grandson, and also the youngest grandchild, but that's only going to be for a couple weeks. So went to see Gabriel and Brittany. My grandson Leland, of course, it's my grandson, perfect kid, no problem there. No need to tell him to hush and shut up and all that kind of stuff. He's just so laid back. But on the airplane, there's a whole lot of families from Taiwan that go to Okinawa for the holidays. And so there was just a whole bunch of families, and I was sitting with a family of 5, 3 girls and 3 kids, and mom and dad, and their middle child there, she just was not accustomed to flying. Suddenly there was, as they were coming in for landing, there's this bump as the gear goes down, and she freaked. I mean, she just went screaming at the top of her lungs. And mom was trying her best, trying to calm her and settle her down. She's squirming, and of course the stewardess is up. You got to put her in. I don't know what this is. You can't just take a screaming belligerent child and strap him into the seat as much as you'd like to, So she's crying out, "We are, we are, we are." I Those two words, hush, be still. I wish they would have worked at that time. This is how Jesus took care of those waves and those winds and the winds just by speaking to them. So the rest of the night on that boat is as calm and as wonderful as you could ever imagine. In the morning, they begin to approach the land. Wouldn't you like to know what their discussion was? Would you like to know what the conversation is between these disciples as they review? Wow, that was some storm last night. Yeah, we almost lost it. We were goners. Oh boy, isn't that Jesus something? Can you believe what he did? He got up and he told the wind to just knock it off and the waves would be still, and they did. Who does that? That was pretty amazing, wasn't it? That was pretty. And so the sun comes up, it's a beautiful sunrise, and they come to land, and they're beginning to begin the rest of the events of the day. But what do you think the events of that night, what do you think it did for those disciples, for those followers of Jesus? How did it affect their relationship? How did it affect what they were thinking about Jesus? How do you think it affected their confidence in the one who was in the boat? I mean, he's the master, he goes to sleep, and he doesn't wake up. They're in dire danger. They have to go and wake him up. So what do you think about is going through their minds as they're reflecting on what happened tonight? What would your response have been? I mean, if you've been in the boat that night, and you had gone through the storm like they had gone through, you were, honestly, you were in fear of your life. Even those fishermen who had been grown up near the water there, they knew they were in danger, and that this was not going to be a good ending unless someone intervened. So what would your response have been if you had been on that boat? But here's the thing. Without the storm that night, without what had happened to them, and causing them to think about who this Jesus is, the events that they're about to experience, they would not be ready for it. They would not be ready for it. So if you will turn your Bibles to Luke chapter 8, and if you don't want to turn the Bibles, you can just look up on the screen. Luke chapter 8, we're going to read a story here about going to the other side and what Jesus meets on the other side. Verse 26 says this. Then they sailed to the country of the Gerasenes, which is opposite Galilee. When Jesus had stepped out on land, there met him a man from the city who had demons. For a long time he had worn no clothes, and he had not lived in a house but among the tombs. When he saw Jesus, he cried out and fell down before him and said with a loud voice, What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, do not torment me. For he had commanded the unclean spirit to come out of the man. For many a time it had seized him. He was kept under guard, bound with chains and shackles, but he would break the bonds and be driven by the demon into the desert. Jesus then asked him, What is your name? And he said, Legion. Many demons had entered him, and they begged him not to command them to depart into the abyss. Now a large herd of pigs was feeding there on the hillside, and they begged him to let them enter these. So he gave them permission. Then the demons came out of the man and entered the pigs, and the herd rushed down the steep bank into the lake and drowned. When the herdsmen saw what had happened, they fled and told it in the city and in the country. Then people went out to see what had happened. They came to Jesus and found the man from whom the demons had gone, sitting at the feet of Jesus, clothed and in his right mind. And they were afraid. And those who had seen it told them how the demon-possessed man had been healed. Then all the people in the surrounding country of the Gerasenes asked him to depart from them, for they were seized with great fear. So he got into the boat and returned. The man from whom the demons had gone begged that he might be with him. But Jesus sent him away, saying, Return to your home, and declare how much God has done for you. And he went away, proclaiming throughout the whole city how much Jesus had done for him. Just Just a few things I'd like to point out from this particular passage of Scripture. Some things I'd like for us to notice. And that would be, first of all, it says, then they sailed to the country of the Gerasenes. Now, this isn't where they started out going. At least we don't know. Because as we saw last week, the Bible told us, they got into the boat. Jesus said, let's go to the other side. Whatever's on the other side. They had had a very busy day. Jesus was tired. However it was, they acquired a boat, got on it, going to the other side. It was going to take a bit of a journey. And as we saw last week, they experienced this huge storm. Now, we don't know if Gerasenes was their intended destination. We don't know if the storm had sent them way off course. And actually, there's some confusion as to exactly where it is they were going. There's 3 different names that were given for this area there. The names are not in the same place, but the thing is this. Luke, in his research, has found that they were going to this place called the Gerasenes. Exactly where that area is, we can't know, except to say that it's across the lake of Galilee. Except to say that we know there's a city or a town nearby, because that's where the first event announced would happen. It's also a place that's inhabited not just by Jews, but Jews and Gentiles. And being as there were Jews and Gentiles there, this resulted in a mixed crowd, and also resulted in the Jews who became much more secular and much less tied to their traditional backgrounds, their traditional way of doing things. The Jews on the Galilee side, very much traditional, very much following the old ways, the biblical ways. And so they looked at those on the other side who now were living amongst the Gentiles there, that they had compromised, that they were not living the separated and pure lives that they should be living. And yet, I think it speaks very loudly, the fact that Jesus said, that's where we're going. That's where we're going. We're going to that side. Now, we also know this, that there's pigs there feeding. So there were steep hills that went up from the water, and pigs were feeding along these hills there, and however it happened, that these steep slopes went right down to the water, such that the Spirit would happen to those pigs. Now then, the conditions. If we were disciples, we're followers of Jesus, we're part of the 12, we're part of this close group that's gathered around Jesus, we're in the boat with him. Not everybody got to get in the boat. Only those who were in the close circle. Looking at the first part of chapter 8 here, we see there was who Jesus had called out. He's called the 12. But then he also names the names of some of the women. Not all the women. There were several, but he named some of them. And we don't know how many of the women also went along with him in the boat there. But these are good Jews. They find themselves having come out of one storm, heading to another. As they approach the shore, they notice that it's covered with tombs. I would say that if you're from Taiwan, Asia, you probably know a little bit, you probably have a better picture in your mind of what those tombs look like, what that graveyard looked like. I can promise you it did not look like anything you see in America. I've gone to visit my grandmother's grave on several occasions. When I'm back in the States, it's a lovely graveyard. The grass is all nicely mowed. The trees are trimmed. Someone looks after the tombstones and to make sure that everything's quiet and serene, and actually a very pleasant place to be. Obviously very quiet. But that's not typically how graveyards are in Asia. I grew up here. I was born here. I used to play in those things. It was a great place to play hide and go seek, especially because there's the mounds, there's tall grass, there's tombstones to hide behind, and we played all kinds of games in there as kids. So I know. And then I used to live up here, beyond the baseball stadium, up the hill there, right across where we used to live here in Kenwood. There's a graveyard, and that graveyard looks just like a typical Asian graveyard, except that twice a year the families come and they clean it up and so forth. But here's what's happened is people figured out that they can pay a little bit of money to somebody who will look after the grave for them. And it's funny how it worked. He wouldn't do anything to the grave until about 2 weeks before grave cleaning festival. And he could have tidied it all up. That was when people would come. So I knew when he got busy, I knew grave cleaning festival was on the way. I say all that to say this, is that the graveyard there is not a nice, quiet little place that people would just stroll through and in honor and so forth of the dead. As far as the Jews were concerned, the tombs meant death. Death meant unclean. Unclean meant staying away, separating ourselves, not being a part of that. Then, as they approach that place, here comes this crazy guy. Crazy guy who hasn't had a haircut for a long, long time. He's got crazy looking eyes. His body is full of lacerations and he's completely naked. He's screaming at the top of his lungs. He's running full tilt down to the shore there as here comes the boat. Here comes the boat. So we have here not only tombs and death, but we have demons and evil spirits. Again, for the disciples, it's unclean. We don't want to be there. And then there's pigs. Pigs. Jews and pigs don't mix. It's not just they're told they're for pigs. They're not to get around the pork and so forth. And they don't eat it. So, this is really, it's a situation that for them, it's not a pleasant, nice, let's go have a picnic on the seashore kind of thing. So, as they land on the shore at the sight of Jesus, this crazy man runs to them and amazingly, he falls down at the feet of Jesus. And in a loud voice, he begins proclaiming, "This is the Son of the Most High God. What are you doing here with us? What business do you have here with us?" They recognize who Jesus is. It's interesting. It's interesting that the demons, the wicked demons, all of them, every instance that they come into contact with this guy named Jesus, they identify who he is. Without fail, they identify him as being the Son of the Most High God. Now then, the Scripture tells us that Jesus was trying to cast out these demons. It seems as if they didn't leave when he told them to. Because if you look at the Scriptures and the way it's going, it seems as if there's this, Jesus told them to leave, they didn't, and then he says, "Okay, what's your name?" And they begin a conversation. "What's your name?" And this conversation takes place with a voice that's not that man's voice. It's another voice coming from within this body. I don't know if you had an experience like that. We're talking, this is the Word of God. We're talking about spiritual evil spirits. And this is not ghosts and things that go bump in the night. This is a guy who's possessed by demons. It's a spiritual event that's taking place. And Jesus begins to have this conversation with this man and begins to negotiate with the demons that are within him. They say, don't send us to the abyss. That's the pit. That's the place where the demons have come from. And that's the place where Satan's abode. They say, don't send us to the abyss, because if they're separated from that human body, then they're separated from any kind of activity. This conversation and negotiation goes on, and they say, don't send us to the abyss, but send us to the pigs. And Jesus, as compliant as he is, gives them permission and says, fine, go. And they, in mass, however many demons there are, the name Legion was referring to a group in the Roman army that consists of about 6,000 soldiers. Now, I don't know if there were 6,000 demons. We do know this, there were only 2,000 pigs. At least that's what Mark says in his book, there was 2,000 pigs. If there's 6,000 demons and 2,000 pigs, that's a big mess. And so the result is these pigs just go hurtling down the hill into the water, and 2,000 pigs are floating around in the Sea of Galilee on this beautiful sunny day. I mean, they thought that they had been through a bad storm. It's like, guys, you ain't seen nothing yet. So the response is that those tending to the pigs, they immediately go, they're going to report back, the owners are not tending to pigs. The owners have hired people to tend to pigs. Probably these 2,000 pigs are not owned by one farmer, one big farmer, probably owned by countryside there. So those who are caring for the pigs are going, uh-oh, dude, I am in trouble. I have to go explain, sir, let me tell you about those pigs. I mean, you got to understand, sir, I mean, we're minding the pigs like we're supposed to. And then this boat comes to the shore. As soon as the boat comes to the shore, you know the crazy guy, he's always hanging out around the graves there. He goes screaming down there. This guy steps out of the boat and they have this conversation. And after they have this conversation, the crazy guy goes calm. And suddenly, sir, our pigs go nuts. And they go running all by themselves down the hill in the water, drown themselves. And the pig farmer goes, yeah, you have got to be kidding me. So he says, okay, let's go check it out. And that's why the Bible tells us they come from all around the countryside there, because there's this incredibly, now come on, guys, you're looking at me like you think that this story is so normal. If you read this on the internet or in the paper, especially if it's on the internet, you would say, oh, it can't be true. But it's crazy to have to go and tell somebody that the pigs went by themselves down there because the crazy man's fine now. But we know that it's because of the demons. So the people from all around pour out to see the former naked wild man who's clothed in his right mind, and they're very impressed. They're very amazed. The witnesses then who saw this begin to tell everybody who's gathered just how Jesus cast out the demons from this man, and the resulting consequences in that herd of swine that go running down into the water are drowned. So while they're telling everybody, here's what happens, and this is interesting. I find this very fascinating indeed. That these people, when they hear what's happening, and the demons being cast out of this man, they're losing all their pigs, they are seized with a great fear. They are seized with a great fear. They're in a panic. And they're saying, Jesus, we don't want you here. Jesus, you need to leave. I mean, come on. On the one hand, they have this crazy guy who scares everybody. They try to control him, try to tie him up. They can't do that anymore. He screams, he cuts himself, he's just wild, and he roams the graveyard there. And they're more afraid of Jesus, who got the demons out of the guy and made him normal again, than they are the crazy guy. How does that happen? I think it's rather odd that they should be seized with such a fear. What are they afraid of anyway? I think that one of the things they could be afraid of is the power that Jesus exercised in exercising the demons. That's pretty frightening. It's pretty amazing to have something like that. And I also think that they were probably very afraid of anyone who's so powerful to cause such a catastrophic trauma to their economy. 2,000 pigs are gone. That's a whole lot of baby pools. And it's going to hurt their pocketbook. It's going to hurt their pocketbook. But I ask you a question here. When we come to fully realize the power of this one called Jesus, could this possibly be a reason that we keep Jesus at arm's length? Jesus, I need that in my life. Just you stay up there, mind your word, do what you think you need to do. Get you on Sundays, but then we'll meet you next Sunday. Just, Jesus, keep your distance. Don't want that kind of profound change happening in my life. I also think it's very interesting, very unchristian like, that when they asked Jesus to leave, he didn't argue. He got on the boat and left. I hang out with too many Christians who want to argue all the time. The world says, hey, we want you to we want to fight back and say, hey, of course I can be. I have my rights. Why did Jesus even say, ask Father? They told Jesus, you're out of here. We don't want you. And he gets back in the boat. And he leaves. Without even saying a word. Too often, we Christians, we think that we got to fight for every little bit. And Jesus backs off. But this other guy, the young guy who just, I don't know how old he was, picture in our mind of what Jesus is like. All of us formulate this Jesus that we're comfortable with. But when we go to look at the Scriptures, we see the things that Jesus says and He does. He does some things that, frankly, I don't know about you, but I'm uncomfortable with. But He's God. I don't have to make Jesus fit my box. I need to fit my life into how it is. So I wanted to just say a couple of things about this passage of Scripture that we're looking at. That is this. The first thing I'd like for us to look at is the reality of the spiritual world. The reason I like for us to look at the reality of the spiritual world is simply because we live in a world that is strongly pro-science and facts and reality. And the whole spiritual aspect of things doesn't have that touchy-feely kind of thing where you can actually hold on to it and analyze it and study it. It's ethereal, you know, I mean, it's a spiritual thing. Consequently, in our Western minds and our Western way of thinking, we tend to not be so, how should I say, absolute about the spiritual life, the spiritual realities. But the fact is, if we're going to look at the life of Jesus, just in the book of Luke, you'll see there's several passages in Scripture. And I just want to run through these real quick because it's important for us to know that as far as Jesus is concerned, this whole spiritual thing with evil spirits and wickedness and also the Holy Spirit and His influence and so forth, we as Christians, we talk a whole lot about being filled with the Holy Spirit, but we don't want to talk too much about the influence of the demons and devils. Whereas in Jesus' ministry, His ministry began with a major confrontation. After He was baptized by John the Baptist, He went out into the wilderness, and for 40 days He was tempted by Satan from different aspects. But this is how He began His ministry, in an outright spiritual confrontation with the devil himself. He overcame that temptation. He was able to overcome the temptations of Satan. And goes from there, he goes up to his hometown, and then after leaving his hometown, he goes out to the city of Capernaum. He's in the city of Capernaum, as was his custom, to go to the synagogue and to teach there. As he's teaching, here comes a demon-possessed, a man full of an evil spirit, comes into the synagogue and begins crying out loud, disturbing the teaching. And Jesus exorcises that evil spirit right there. Later on in the same chapter, chapter 4, verse 40, Jesus is healing people. There's people coming from all around, and they're bringing the sick and those that are possessed with demons. And Jesus, as He approaches each one of them, He silences them and tells them not to cry out and to say who He is. We read in the first part of Luke chapter 8 about a lady named Mary Magdalene. She's a follower of Jesus. She's a follower of Jesus because she had 7 demons. 7 demons cast out of her. So these that must be in preparation for the 6,000 demons of this other guy, or the legion of demons of this other one. But imagine the turmoil that's going through Mary's life. She's got these 7 demons within her, and then the incredible transformation and change that took place in her life. So she becomes an avid follower of Jesus Christ. She's here mentioned in Luke chapter 8. You'll also see her mentioned as being one of the Marys at the cross who watched her Savior die. There's a whole story that goes with that. And just walking with her, she walked with Jesus. I believe that she was probably in the boat with Jesus and the disciples as they went there. I believe that of all the disciples in the boat, she was probably the only one who recognized the fact that this guy was full of demons, and she goes, they're done that, got that t-shirt, I know exactly what they're doing. Because that was exactly her experience. Exactly her experience. Then where we're at today, Jesus talking about the legion of demons. Then we'll see in Luke chapter 9. Here's a story of a boy who is described as having epileptic seizures caused by a demon. Now, epileptic seizures are definitely a medical thing. However, I think if we're going to take the Scriptures honestly, we have to see that there are some medical symptoms that the Bible clearly says are demonic. So I don't think that just because a person has an epileptic fit, that we should quickly go over there, put the sign of the cross on them, and start exercising demons. There can be a medical problem there. It can be solved. But there also needs to be, friends, there also needs to be a discerning heart. The scriptures tell us to be able to discern the spirits, to understand, and to have sense if there's a spiritual problem, a spiritual presence here. And Jesus clearly takes this boy who is being constantly, in practicing, if you look at the story, he's storing himself in the fires, he goes through his violent seizures, and Jesus casts out the demon, and he's fine. Then in chapter 11 of Luke, Jesus cast out a demon who had made this man mute. He could not talk. And here we clearly see the condition of being mute and unable to talk in that particular situation was caused by demonic activity, demon possession. And after the exorcism of the demon, he was able to talk, and it was amazing. So this is Jesus in his confrontation with demons. But when we continue on, we see in the early church also had this demon activity that they had to deal with. In 1 Timothy chapter 4, demons are acquainted with the use of false doctrine. Now the Spirit expressly says that in later times, that would be these times, some will depart from the faith by devoting themselves to deceiving spirits and teaching of demons, who the insincerity and liars of consciences are seared. If you to go back and look at the context of where this is at, this is talking about those false pastors. Pastors who put themselves off as being spiritual people. They devoted themselves to deceitful, lying spirits and teaching of demons. They're liars. Their conscience has been so seared. They do it for many different kinds of reasons and so forth. But here's the thing. This is why I say we need to be discerning of the spirits. And as a pastor, I would say, there are sometimes pastors who are there completely for the wrong reason, who are under demonic influence, even demonic presence. That's why we have some churches that go completely off the wall. So, I just want to say this in passing. I don't think I'm that person. But let me tell you, the responsibility, folks, is not me to convince you, but you to be in the Word, so you have a discerning spirit and are able to discern. I am not perfect. I am not perfect. God's Word is perfect. You need to be discerning and in God's Word, so that you sense also these things. False signs. In the last days, there's going to be these false signs. And they're going to be these signs and wonders that come up. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 tells us this. The coming of the lawless one is by the activity of Satan, with all power and false signs and wonders, and with all wicked deception for those who are perishing, because they refuse to love the truth and so be saved. Therefore, God sends them a strong delusion so that they may believe what is false. Like those people who were seized with fear. They said, Jesus, we don't want you to God is Lord. Here's the thing. Those who do not love the truth, they're deceived. God sends them a strong delusion. He tells us right there, it's a deception that is a deception of Satan and demons, activity of Satan. False signs and wonders. Again, I'm going to give you a word of caution. I want to encourage you to be discerning. Not every sign and wonder is of God. There are signs and wonders that are concoctions of the devil for the purpose of deceiving the saints. That's why we must be students of the Word of God and receptive of the Spirit of God alive. We have to. Because the signs and wonders, they're going to increase. They're going to increase. Then an angel, Satan, actually causes physical harm. This is where Paul has had an amazing experience. Well, actually, it's not very amazing. Actually, it was very amazing, so we take that back. He was preaching the gospel in the town, and church planting, they didn't like his gospel, so they stoned him for his message. And thinking that he was dead, and he probably was, they dragged his body out of town and left it there. But miraculously, it's truly a miracle, Paul stood up, went out on his business. But here's what happens. During that time, he had a vision. He had a revelation. According to his testimony, he had been up to heaven, and he had been revealed, to him some of the last things that were going to happen. But the instructions of Paul were this: you can't talk about it. I've told you, but you cannot talk about it. So, here's what he writes when he's writing to this church in Corinth. This was a very personal letter that he's writing. Chapter 12, verse 7 says, "So to keep me from becoming conceited, because of the surpassing greatness of the revelations, a thorn was given me in the flesh, a messenger of Satan to harass me and keep me from being conceited." And I say to you, if there was ever a person who did not want to be conceited, this would be a good reason. Who would want a messenger of Satan to be harassed and keep him hungry? Yet, that's exactly what Paul recognized. And he cried out and said, he cried 3 times for deliverance. And God's response was this: I will give you sufficient grace to handle it. So, I would also say that there are times that we as believers are suffering from, as Paul put it, a thorn in the flesh, a time when there's a spiritual attack. So church members are warned not to allow Satan to gain a foothold in our lives, to be aware of his plots, to be discerning. We have to be ready for his attacks. We need to be ready to put off his attacks. So let me ask you this question then, church. Since Jesus, in his short ministry of about 3 years, had a constant confrontation with demons and evil spirit activity, since this was also something that was happening in the New Testament church, of which the beginning that we just looked at. Here we are, Grace Church, New Testament church. Do we have this matter of demon possession today? Yes. However, do we seem to recognize it? Does it seem to be very prevalent? How many of you would say, I've actually been a part of exorcising a demon from a person? I don't think that this was something that all the disciples said, oh yeah, we will find somebody who cast out demons. I don't think that was the case. But as I read through the New Testament, I sure see a lot of it. I think the problem is today that in our culture, the demon possession may not be so gross. I mean, when you see a naked man screaming and living in the tombs amongst the dead and just totally, completely uncontrollable, our thought might be, wow, that guy's possessed. But it might be that in our culture, it's not so obvious that the possession is equally as sinister, equally as wicked, but less visible. Because Paul warned the church in Corinth. He tells them that Satan passes himself off as an angel of light. He tells us, as he was writing again to the church in Corinth, he says, you need to be careful because Satan will put himself off as being a messenger of light. How would we be able to distinguish him? Demon-controlled men and women can appear quite normal, even normal, but have a sinister and despicably evil motive about them. The Bible tells us there's coming a time when a world leader is going to come to this world. This man's going to be well-liked. He's actually, people are going to say, hey, we need a strong leader like this. We need a guy who's really firm on law and order. We need somebody to bring this world back into line again. And he's going to come through the ranks. He will be the devil incarnate. He will be Satan in human flesh. He will be a very likable person. He will be those who have the discerning spirit who will be able to recognize this man. This very wicked. So is there demon possession today? Yes. Yes, there is. So we need to determine to resist it. 1 Peter And he's talking in the book of 1 Peter chapter 5. Peter is writing to Christians during this time, difficult time. He says to them, be sober-minded, be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, he prowls around like a roaring lion. He's seeking someone to devour. So, here's what we do. Resist him. What does he say? Firm in your faith. May I say to you again and again and again, you have got to have a solidly biblical theology. Someone resist him firm in your faith, knowing that the same kind of suffering are being experienced by your brotherhood throughout the world. So folks, the reason that Luke is writing this letter to us is that you may be convinced of what you know that is true and that you can stand on. Faith is standing on, acting on what we know to be true. Show it. Let it out. Also, we should not assume this, and this I think is very important, that not everyone that looks and acts like a wild naked man is demon possessed. I mean, I've seen some rock stars that are I don't think that they're necessarily demon possessed. And, I've seen some people who, life has been very cruel, very difficult. I don't necessarily believe that everyone who acts wild and crazy is demon possessed. But I would say that we need to understand this. Every one of us has a potential for that. Because sin is a universal condition. Sin is a universal condition common to all humans. All humans. Therefore, as sin is a universal condition common to all humans, all have the potential to be gross and evil. Here's what James chapter 1 says, and this is a good word for it. But each person is tempted